The hum of fluorescent lights echoed across the marble lobby of Kingston Enterprises Tower. Each night, long after the executives and assistants had vanished into their limousines, Jamal Carter pushed his mop bucket across the floor, his back aching, but his resolve steady. He moved slowly, not because of laziness, but because of precision. The board members would never thank him for shining their hallways, but Jamal knew the value of his work. Every sweep of the mop was a quiet rebellion against the despair that life had tried to press onto him. The building was a palace of glass and steel, a monument to power. Jamal, however, lived on the other side of the city, in a neighborhood where sirens were more common than birdsong, and broken streetlights outnumbered working ones. He carried that weight on his shoulders as he scrubbed the polished tiles. He thought often of his daughter, Aaliyah, waiting for him at home. 13 years old and already brighter than anyone he had ever met. She inhaled books like they were oxygen. While other kids played video games, she sat cross-legged in their cramped living room, whispering through pages of history, science, and languages she had picked up from the local library. To Jamal, she was his world. She was the reason he endured. The late nights, the low pay, the aching joints. If he could shield her from the hardships he had faced, every drop of sweat would be worth it. That night, after finishing his shift, Jamal trudged through the city streets. The bus ride took him, past neon-lit restaurants and luxury stores, places that seemed to exist in another universe compared to his world. By the time he reached his neighborhood, the glamour had faded into cracked sidewalks and graffiti-stained walls. Their apartment was small, 2 rooms, 1 leaky faucet, and peeling wallpaper, but inside it was warm with love. As Jamal unlocked the door, he heard the faint sound of Aaliyah's voice. "Et voilà," she said, shutting her book with a grin. Jamal stepped in and chuckled. "What language is that now, princess?" "French," Aaliyah beamed, her dark curls bouncing as she looked up at him. "It means there it is." "You and these books," Jamal said, shaking his head with a proud smile. He placed his mop bucket by the door and knelt to hug her. "How was school?" "Boring. I already read the stuff they're teaching. But guess what? I found this book in the library. It's got all these symbols that don't look like any alphabet I know. I think it's some kind of ancient writing." Jamal raised an eyebrow. "Symbols? Like hieroglyphics?" "Not exactly. It's different. Hard to explain. But I'm gonna figure it out," she said, determination gleaming in her eyes. He laughed softly. "I don't doubt it. You're smarter than anyone I know." Aaliyah's expression softened. "Smarter than you?" "Much smarter than me," Jamal admitted, ruffling her hair. "And that's exactly why you're gonna go further than I ever could." They ate dinner together, rice, beans, and a single piece of chicken they split between them. For Jamal, it wasn't much, but Aaliyah never complained. She always thanked him, always smiled, always made him feel like he was giving her the world, even when his pockets were nearly empty. Later that night, as Jamal tucked her into bed, Aaliyah looked up at him and asked, "Daddy, do you think life ever changes suddenly? Like, one day you're just you, and the next day everything is different?" Jamal hesitated, brushing her curls from her forehead. "Sometimes it does, but most times, change comes from working hard every day, step by step." "Why do you ask?" "I don't know," she said softly. "I just feel like something big is coming, like a story waiting to happen." Jamal smiled, though his heart ached. "Then when it comes, princess, you'll be ready." He turned off the light, leaving her to dream. What Jamal didn't know, what he couldn't possibly imagine, was that her words would prove true sooner than either of them expected. Within days, their ordinary lives would collide with the world. Of billionaires, secrets, and codes buried deep in history. And it would all begin with a single sentence from the most powerful man in the city. If your daughter can translate this, I'll double your pay. The next evening began like any other. Jamal's mop swished rhythmically across the glass lobby floor of Kingston Enterprises Tower. He tried to focus on the work, but his mind wandered. Aaliyah's words from the night before still lingered. In his ears. Something big is coming. He shook his head. She was just a kid with a wild imagination. Life didn't change that fast. Not for people like them, Dot. But fate was already moving pieces into place. Dot, at precisely 9 o'clock, the polished wooden doors of the executive boardroom opened. Alexander Kingston stepped out, his presence immediately altering the air around him. Dot, tall, broad-shouldered, with silver at his temples that only sharpened his handsomeness, Kingston walked with the confidence of a man who had never known defeat. His suit was tailored to perfection, his watch gleamed like starlight, and his piercing eyes scanned the lobby as if the building itself were bowing to him. Jamal froze mid-swipe, unsure if he should look up or keep his head down. He had seen Kingston from afar many times, but never this close. To him, Kingston was almost mythic, the billionaire whose name decorated skyscrapers, hospitals, and universities across the city. "Evening," Kingston said suddenly, his voice deep and commanding. Jamal straightened, startled that the man even spoke to him. "Good evening, sir." Kingston studied him in silence for a moment. "You're here every night, always working. What's your name?" "Jamal Carter, sir." Kingston nodded slowly, as if filing the information away. "Do you have children, Mr. Carter?" Jamal blinked. The question was unusual, especially from someone like Kingston. "Yes, sir. A daughter. Aaliyah." Kingston's lips curled into a faint, unreadable smile. 13, isn't she?" Jamal's chest tightened. How did he know that? Yes, Jamal said cautiously. Kingston stepped closer, pulling a leather-bound folder from under his arm. He opened it with deliberate slowness, revealing pages covered in strange symbols and looping scripts unlike anything Jamal had ever seen. "Can she read this?" Kingston asked, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Jamal's throat went dry. He stared at the symbols, but they meant nothing to him. They weren't English, Spanish, or anything he'd ever seen. "Sir, I don't think—" "If your daughter can translate this," Kingston interrupted, "I'll double your pay, immediately." The words slammed into Jamal like a wave. Double his pay? He pictured rent paid on time, food that didn't have to be rationed, Aaliyah with proper clothes and shoes. His heart pounded in his chest. But beneath the offer was confusion. "Sir, with all respect, why her? She's smart, yes, but she's just a kid. Why not ask someone on your staff?" Kingston's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "Because I believe she can. And sometimes, Mr. Carter, gifts appear where the world least expects them." Jamal's hands trembled as he gripped the mop handle. He didn't understand what game this was, but something in Kingston's tone told him the man was deadly serious. "Bring her," Kingston ordered. "Tomorrow evening, right here. I want to see what she can do." And with that, the billionaire strode away, leaving Jamal standing in the dim lobby, his mind spinning. That night, Jamal could barely focus on the bus ride home. He stared out the window as the city lights blurred into streaks, his thoughts torn. Between hope and fear. When he finally stepped into their tiny apartment, Aaliyah was sitting cross-legged on the couch, nose buried in yet another book. She looked up eagerly. "Daddy, you're late." Jamal tried to smile, though his heart was racing. "Yeah, something happened tonight. Something strange." Her eyes lit up. "Strange good or strange bad?" "Both," Jamal admitted, sitting beside her. He told her about Kingston, about the mysterious pages, about the challenge that could change their lives. Aaliyah's face grew serious. "He wants me to read it?" "Yes," Jamal said quietly. "And I don't know why, but he promised to double my pay if you can." She bit her lip, thinking hard. What kind of symbols were they? Jamal shook his head. I don't know. Nothing I've ever seen. But he looked like he expected you could. Aaliyah's fingers tightened around her book. She didn't say she was scared. She didn't say she couldn't do it. Instead, she looked straight at him with that fire in her eyes, the same fire her mother once had. I'll try, she whispered. For us. Jamal's chest swelled with both pride and dread. He hugged her tightly, wishing he could protect her from whatever game Kingston was playing. The following evening, the two of them walked into Kingston Enterprises together. The lobby felt colder than usual, the chandeliers brighter, as if the building itself was watching. They were escorted up to the top floor, where the billionaire awaited them in a massive boardroom. The table gleamed like dark water under the lights, and the folder of symbols lay open at its center like a secret begging to be revealed. Kingston leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Aaliyah, he said smoothly. Go ahead. The girl approached nervously, sliding into a seat. Her small hands brushed over the pages. The strange markings seemed alive under her touch, their shapes twisting like whispers from another world. At first, her brow furrowed. Then, slowly, her lips parted, as if she understood something no one else could. This isn't just a language, she murmured. It's a code, a story, about someone who lost everything but then found a key, a golden key. Jamal's breath caught. Kingston's expression flickered for just an instant. Shock, then satisfaction, then something darker. Remarkable, Kingston whispered. Truly remarkable. But instead of praising them, he leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. Mr. Carter, your daughter has a gift that could change both of your lives forever. But know this. What she's touched tonight is not a game. It's bigger than money, bigger than you or me. The air grew heavy, and Jamal realized with dread that they had stepped into something far beyond a simple offer of doubled pay. Something dangerous had just begun. The boardroom was silent, save for the faint ticking of Kingston's antique clock on the far wall. Aaliyah's voice still lingered in the air, fragile yet powerful. Someone who lost everything, but then found a golden key. Jamal sat frozen in his chair, his hands clasped so tightly together that his knuckles turned white. He hadn't breathed properly in minutes. His daughter's words, though soft, had carried a weight that felt far larger than her years. Kingston's sharp gaze remained fixed on her, his fingers steepled under his chin. Remarkable, he murmured again. Tell me more. Aaliyah's eyes darted nervously to her father, then back to the pages. It's not just a story. It's hiding instructions. The symbols repeat in patterns like a puzzle. Kingston leaned forward, a rare spark of excitement lighting his otherwise controlled expression. And what do these instructions say? I'm not sure yet, Aaliyah admitted. But they feel important. Like they're leading somewhere. The heavy doors creaked open, breaking the moment. 3 people entered. A stern woman in a navy business suit, a tall man with glasses, and a stocky assistant balancing a tablet. They looked like executives, but the way they carried themselves told Jamal they were more than that. Mr. Kingston, the woman said crisply, you requested us. Yes, Kingston replied, gesturing toward Aaliyah. Watch closely. The 3 exchanged puzzled glances before focusing on the girl. Jamal's protective instincts flared. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, eyeing them with distrust. Kingston slid another sheet toward Aaliyah, its markings even denser than before. Try this one, he said softly, almost coaxing. Aaliyah hesitated, then leaned over the page. Her lips moved silently as her eyes scanned the symbols. After a moment, she whispered, This one talks about a place. A chamber, hidden, under the earth. It says the golden key unlocks it. The woman in the suit's eyes widened slightly. Impossible, she muttered under her breath. The man with glasses adjusted his frames, whispering, "She shouldn't be able to read that." Jamal's heart pounded harder. He grabbed Alia's hand protectively. "What's going on here? What is this?" Kingston's expression turned cold, calculated. "These texts are part of something ancient, Mr. Carter. Something my researchers have spent years trying to decode. None of them succeeded." He nodded toward the executives. Until now, Alia shrank slightly under the weight of their stares. I don't know how I'm reading it. I just can." The room grew tense, the silence heavy with things unsaid. "Mr. Kingston," Jamal said firmly, standing up. His voice trembled, but his resolve was clear. "My daughter isn't some tool for your business. She's just a child." The woman in the suit spoke sharply. "A child who just translated what our top linguists and historians couldn't. Do you realize the significance of that?" "I don't care about significance," Jamal shot back. "I care about her." Kingston raised a hand, silencing the room. His eyes locked on Jamal's, unblinking. "You misunderstand me, Mr. Carter. This is not exploitation. This is opportunity. For her. For you." "Opportunity?" Jamal scoffed. "Feels more like a trap." Kingston's gaze softened just slightly. "You love your daughter, yes? You want her safe, provided for, given every chance at a future?" Jamal clenched his fists. "Of course I do." "Then trust me," Kingston said quietly. "This ability of hers, it's rare, maybe even unique. With it, she could open doors no one else can. Doors that lead to knowledge, to wealth, to power." The words hung in the air, shimmering with temptation. Jamal knew what doubled pay could mean. But this was far beyond money. He looked at Alia, who was staring at the pages with both fear and fascination. For all her brilliance, she was still a child. And yet, Jamal could see it. She wanted to understand. She needed to know why these symbols made sense to her when they made no sense to anyone else. The man with glasses cleared his throat. "Mr. Kingston, if I may, if she continues, we may risk exposure." Kingston's jaw tightened. "Not if we protect her." The woman frowned. "Protect her or control her?" Kingston's eyes flashed. "Enough." The executives fell silent, but Jamal caught the unease in their expressions. Something wasn't right. Whatever this was, it was bigger, much bigger, than a simple test of his daughter's skills. That night, Jamal and Alia left the tower with heavy hearts. Kingston had been courteous, but his final words followed them like a shadow. "Tomorrow, bring her again. The next page will reveal even more. And when it does, both of your lives will change forever." As they walked through the cold night streets, Jamal squeezed his daughter's hand. "We don't have to do this," he whispered. "We can walk away." But Alia shook her head. Her voice was small but steady. "Daddy, I need to know why I can read it. It feels like it's calling to me." Jamal's stomach twisted with dread. He wanted to keep her safe. He wanted to run far away from billionaires and secret codes and mysterious promises. But deep down, he knew the truth. Whatever force had drawn Kingston to them, it wouldn't let them walk away so easily. The next evening, Jamal almost didn't return. He sat in their dim apartment, staring at the clock. Every tick sounded louder than the last, pressing against his chest, like a warning. Alia, however, was already tying her shoelaces, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Daddy," she said softly, noticing his hesitation, "we have to go." Jamal rubbed his temples. Aaliyah, I don't like this. That man, he's powerful. People like him, they don't just give opportunities. They take. And once they've taken, they don't let go. Her eyes shimmered with quiet determination. But what if this is meant for me? What if this is why I've always been different? He swallowed hard, remembering her nights spent poring over strange symbols. The way she devoured knowledge far beyond her age. He wanted to protect her from everything. But how could he protect her from herself? From her own gift? With a heavy sigh, Jamal rose. Fine. But the moment I think it's too dangerous, we're out. Promise me you'll trust me on that. I promise, she whispered. They returned to Kingston Enterprises Tower, escorted once more to the top floor. The boardroom was darker tonight, its lights dimmed, curtains drawn across the city skyline. The atmosphere was heavy, as though secrets themselves were waiting in the shadows. Alexander Kingston stood at the head of the table, his silver hair catching the faint glow. He greeted them with a smile that was more calculated than kind. Mr. Carter, Aaliyah, I wasn't sure you'd come back. We almost didn't, Jamal said flatly. Kingston's gaze flicked briefly to him, then lingered on Aaliyah. But you did, because you know this is bigger than hesitation. He gestured to the folder lying open on the table. This time there were more pages, older, their edges frayed, ink faded as if time itself had tried to erase them. These, Kingston said, are fragments of something extraordinary, a manuscript written centuries ago, long before modern languages were formed. Scholars, cryptographers, even artificial intelligence algorithms have tried to crack it. None succeeded. He paused, his eyes narrowing. Until her. Jamal bristled. Why us? Why her? You could have hired the best minds in the world. I did, Kingston replied smoothly, and they failed. But when your daughter looked at the page, she didn't see confusion. She saw clarity. That means the manuscript isn't just language, it's something more. Something alive. Aaliyah tilted her head. Alive? Kingston's expression softened. For the first time, there was something almost vulnerable in his eyes. When I was a boy, my father told me about a legend passed down in our family. A legend of a key, not just any key, but one said to unlock knowledge itself. He claimed the manuscript contained its map. I dismissed it as a story, until fragments began surfacing, traded among collectors and buried in forgotten libraries. I gathered them all, yet they remained silent, unreadable. He gestured toward Aaliyah. Until you. The room seemed to grow colder. Jamal felt sweat bead at the back of his neck. So, this is about treasure? Jamal asked, his tone laced with suspicion. Kingston shook his head slowly. Not treasure. Legacy. If the manuscript is correct, what it unlocks is far greater than gold or jewels. It could reshape the future. The executives from the night before were there again, watching silently. Jamal noticed their unease, the way their eyes flickered nervously toward Aaliyah. Whatever Kingston sought, they knew it wasn't just a harmless legend. Kingston slid another page toward Aaliyah. Read. She hesitated, glancing at her father. Jamal squeezed her hand. Only if you want to. Aaliyah nodded and leaned over the parchment. The symbols danced before her eyes, and slowly her voice emerged, steady and sure. It speaks of a trial. The one who holds the gift must pass through shadows, guided by the golden key. Only then will the chamber reveal its truth. A hush fell over the room. Kingston exhaled slowly, almost reverently. It's true, my father wasn't lying, Jamal's heart hammered. And what chamber are we talking about exactly? Kingston's eyes met his, unwavering. A place hidden beneath this city. A place no one has entered for centuries. If the manuscript is right, your daughter is the only one who can open it. Jamal's blood ran cold. You want to take my little girl into some hidden chamber because of a fairy tale your father told you? Kingston's tone sharpened. This isn't a fairy tale, Mr. Carter. You've seen it with your own eyes. She can read what no one else can. You should be proud. Do you realize what this could mean for her future, for yours? I realize it sounds like danger, Jamal snapped, and I won't put her at risk. For a long moment, Kingston simply studied him. Then, unexpectedly, he softened. You remind me of my father. He would have said the same, but sometimes the greatest risks bring the greatest destinies. Jamal pulled Aaliyah close. We're not interested in destinies. We just want to live in peace. But Aaliyah, eyes wide and filled with wonder, whispered, Daddy, I want to know. I need to know. Her words pierced his chest like knives. She was his world, his baby, and yet he could see the pull this mystery had on her. If he forbade it, he'd be crushing a part of her spirit. Kingston leaned forward, seizing the moment. Mr. Carter, I'll make you an offer. A home in the safest neighborhood. Full education for Aaliyah at the best schools in the country. Medical care, security, everything. All I ask is that she continues decoding the manuscript. Until we find the key. Jamal's throat tightened. Every promise Kingston spoke was everything he had ever dreamed of giving his daughter. Yet each word felt like a chain, binding them to something they couldn't see. The room went silent again, the weight of choice pressing down like iron. As they left that night, Jamal carried Kingston's words in his chest like burning coals. For the first time in his life, he felt the world tilting beneath his feet. He didn't know yet that the decision he would make in the coming days would not only change his and Aaliyah's lives forever, it would also unravel secrets powerful, enough to shake the city itself. The city was restless that night. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the hum of traffic floated through the cracked windows of Jamal's apartment. But inside, all was quiet. Jamal sat on the edge of his worn-out couch, staring at the wall, lost in thought. Across from him, Aaliyah was curled up with her blanket, her eyes heavy with sleep, though her mind was still racing. Daddy, she murmured, fighting to stay awake. What do you think is inside that chamber? Jamal sighed, rubbing his face with tired hands. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's not our business. But what if it's important? She pressed softly. What if I'm supposed to? Her voice trailed off as sleep finally claimed her. Jamal looked at her, his chest tightening with love and fear. She was all he had. The world had already taken too much from him. Years earlier, he remembered the day Aaliyah was born, back, when hope still burned bright in his chest. He and her mother, Danielle, had been young, poor, but full of dreams. Danielle was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by smiling, and when she held Aaliyah for the first time, her eyes shone with a fierce, unshakable love. But life has a cruel way of testing love. Danielle fell ill when Aaliyah was only 6. Medical bills piled up faster than Jamal could count. He took on extra shifts, cleaned more buildings, worked until his body screamed, but it wasn't enough. He remembered the night at the hospital, Danielle's hand in his, her voice, barely a whisper. Promise me, Jamal. Promise me you'll protect her. Give her a chance, even if it means you have nothing left. He had promised. And then he'd watched the light fade from her eyes. Since that night, Jamal's life had been one long battle to keep that promise. Every mop, every scrub, every aching step, it was all for Aaliyah. Now. Years later, he found himself staring at the ceiling of their tiny apartment, wondering if bringing her to Kingston had betrayed that vow. The next day, Jamal dragged himself. Through work, his body on autopilot while his mind wrestled with the billionaire's offer. Double pay, a new home, A future for Aaliyah that he could never provide on his own. It was everything Danielle had wanted for their daughter. And yet, something in Kingston's eyes haunted him. An obsession that felt dangerous, even consuming. That evening, when they returned to Kingston Enterprises, Jamal noticed something new. Security guards stationed in the lobby, their gazes sharp, their presence unmistakable. Kingston was tightening his circle. They were escorted not to the boardroom this time, but to a smaller, more private chamber lined with bookshelves and artifacts from around the world. Ancient maps, bronze statues, fragments of pottery that looked thousands of years old. Kingston was waiting, his hand resting lightly on one of the manuscript pages. "Mr. Carter," he said, his tone warmer than before. "I realize this must feel overwhelming. I want you to understand. I'm not your enemy. I want to help your daughter reach her full potential." Jamal narrowed his eyes. "By using her to chase some legend?" Kingston's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "By giving her the chance to be extraordinary. Do you know how many people live their whole lives unnoticed? Unfulfilled? Your daughter is different. I can see it. The manuscript chose her." "Chose her?" Jamal echoed, his voice hard. "She's not a prophecy. She's a child." Aaliyah tugged on his sleeve gently. "Daddy, I want to read more. Please." His heart cracked at her words. She was so much like Danielle, curious, determined, unafraid of chasing the unknown. Kingston handed her another sheet. "Take your time," he said softly. Aaliyah's eyes scanned the symbols. She frowned, then began to read aloud. "Beware the guardian, for only the pure of heart may hold the key. The rest will be swallowed by shadows." The air seemed to thicken with those words. Even Kingston's mask of composure faltered for a moment. "The guardian," he whispered. "So it is true." "What's true?" Jamal demanded. But Kingston didn't answer. Instead, he closed the folder sharply and turned to Aaliyah with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You're remarkable, child. Truly remarkable. With your gift, we will find the chamber, and when we do, the world will never be the same." Jamal's stomach churned. He didn't like the way Kingston said "we" that night. As they walked home, Jamal couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He caught glimpses of dark suits on street corners, the glint of headlights trailing them longer than usual. When they finally reached their apartment, he locked the door twice and pulled Aaliyah close. "Listen to me, princess," he whispered, urgently. "I don't care what that man says. You're not chosen. You're not his key. You're mine. And I'll protect you with everything I've got." Aaliyah looked up at him, her eyes wide but calm. "I know, Daddy. But maybe protecting me means letting me find out why I can do this. Maybe this is why Mom always said I was special." Her words broke him. He wanted to say no. He wanted to forbid it. But deep down, he knew she was right. Danielle had always believed Aaliyah was destined for something more. And now, destiny had come knocking in the form of a billionaire with a dangerous dream. Far away, in his private office, Alexander Kingston stood alone, staring out at the city lights. In his hands, he clutched a faded photograph of his father. "You were right, old man," he muttered under his breath. "The key exists, and I've found the one who can unlock it." His reflection in the glass looked back at him, haunted, obsessed, relentless. "This time," he whispered, "I won't fail." The next morning, Jamal woke with a jolt. Someone had slipped a folded piece of paper under their apartment door. His pulse raced as he picked it up, unfolding it carefully. The message was handwritten, sharp and urgent. "He won't let her go. Leave now, before it's too late." There was no signature. Jamal's hands trembled as he stared at the words. He turned quickly, checking on Aaliyah. She was still curled up on the couch, her small frame rising and falling with each breath. For a moment, he envied her innocence, Dot. Then he burned the note in the sink, watching the flames devour the warning. He didn't want her to see it. Not yet, Dot. By the time they arrived at Kingston Enterprises, the atmosphere was different. The usual warmth of polished marble and smiling receptionists had been replaced by a cold, clinical efficiency. More guards, more cameras, more eyes, Dot. It felt less like an office tower, more like a fortress, Dot. They were escorted not to the artifact room this time, but deep into the building, past elevators that required key cards, down corridors lined with reinforced steel doors, until they reached a subterranean chamber. Dot, the walls were lined with massive screens, glowing with fragments of the manuscript magnified and rearranged. Maps, symbols, even satellite images flickered across the displays. Dot. In the center of it all stood Kingston. He looked less like a billionaire today and more like a commander preparing for war. "Welcome," he said smoothly, though his voice carried a dangerous edge. "Today, we go further." Aaliyah stepped toward the glowing symbols instinctively, her eyes wide. "They've changed," she whispered. "Changed?" Jamal asked, frowning. "Dot." She nodded. "The order, it's not the same as before. It's like it's alive, shifting every time I look at it." Kingston's eyes glittered. "Exactly. That's why we've failed. These aren't static codes, they're living ones. And you are the only one who can keep up." Jamal's hand clenched around Aaliyah's shoulder protectively. "Enough riddles. What does it mean?" Kingston's gaze hardened. "It means the manuscripts are more than texts. They are maps, and your daughter is the compass." A hush fell over the room. The screens flickered again, aligning into a series of interlocking shapes. Aaliyah's lips parted as she began to speak. "It says, 'The guardian waits at the threshold. Only the heart free of greed may pass. Those who seek for themselves will be consumed.'" The lights dimmed for a moment, as if the very building recoiled at her words. One of Kingston's advisors shifted uneasily. "Sir, this is dangerous. The warnings aren't metaphors. We've seen what happens when men pursue the chamber unprepared." Kingston's jaw flexed. "They failed because they lacked the key. I don't." His gaze landed on Aaliyah. Jamal pulled her closer. "And if the warnings are real, if this guardian isn't some fairy tale, you'd put her in the middle of it?" Kingston stepped forward, his voice low but searing. "Do you think I care about myths, Mr. Carter? I've sacrificed too much to stop now. My father spent his life chasing these manuscripts. He died with nothing. I will not make the same mistake." "Your father's choices don't give you the right to use my daughter," Jamal snapped. Kingston's eyes narrowed. "Your daughter is not being used. She is being elevated. I've offered you wealth, safety, a future, and yet you bite the hand that feeds you." The tension in the room was suffocating. Suddenly, one of the screens flickered violently, filling with static before, rearranging into a single massive symbol. An eye, ancient and unblinking. Aaliyah gasped. Her small hand clutched her father's. "Daddy, it's watching us." The room seemed to vibrate, a low hum rising from the walls, as if something deep below had stirred. Papers fluttered off the tables, lights flickered, and the air grew. Icy cold. Kingston stared in awe. "The Guardian," he whispered. "It's real." Jamal's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to grab his daughter and run. But the doors behind them hissed shut, locking with a metallic clang. They were trapped. The screens went black all at once. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then, in a voice that wasn't human, Wasn't machine, but something ancient. And everywhere at once the chamber echoed with words. The key has awoken. The test begins. Aaliyah clung to her father, her eyes wide with terror. Kingston's lips curled into a twisted smile. At last, Jamal pulled her close, whispering, fiercely in her ear, "No matter what happens, don't let go of my hand." For the first time, he realized this wasn't about doubled pay, or opportunity, or even destiny. This was survival. The chamber was silent after the voice faded, but the silence was worse than any sound. Aaliyah clutched Jamal's hand, her small fingers digging into his palm. He could feel her trembling, though her eyes were wide, unblinking, fixed on the black screens as if something might emerge from them. Kingston, however, was electric with anticipation. His voice cut through the heavy air. "This is it! The beginning! We're closer than anyone in history has ever been!" Jamal turned on him, fury boiling over. "Closer to what? To dragging a child into something no one understands? Do you even hear yourself?" Before Kingston could respond, the floor shuddered. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The screens flared back to life, not with symbols this time, but with a swirling vision. Stone corridors lit by torches, carved walls stretching into endless darkness. The voice returned, deep and resonant. The Guardian asks, "What will you sacrifice?" The floor beneath them split open with a grinding roar. Jamal yanked Aaliyah back just as a glowing staircase appeared, spiraling downward into shadow. A cold wind rose from below, carrying the scent of damp earth and something far, older, like bones left too long in the dark. "No," Jamal said instantly, backing away. "We're not going down there." Kingston's eyes burned with a feverish light. "We have to. This is the trial." He turned to Aaliyah, lowering his voice like a conspirator. "Do you hear it, child? It's calling to you." "Stop." Jamal roared, shoving himself between Kingston and his daughter. "She's not your key! She's my little girl!" But Aaliyah's gaze remained locked on the staircase. Her lips moved soundlessly before she whispered, "Daddy, I think Mom would want me to see this." Jamal's chest ached at the name. Danielle. Even now, their daughter carried her mother's fearless heart. "Baby, this isn't for us," he said desperately. "This is his obsession, not yours." But the voice returned, filling the chamber, drowning out his plea. "Only the chosen may descend. Only the pure may pass. The greedy will fall." Kingston moved first, stepping onto the glowing stairs. His men hesitated, but he barked an order, and two followed reluctantly. Jamal tightened his grip on Aaliyah. "We're staying here." But the staircase trembled, glowing brighter. The voice spoke again. "If the key does not descend, the path will close forever." Aaliyah's eyes shimmered with tears. "Daddy, if it's closing, maybe this is our only chance to find out why I can read the words." Jamal's throat tightened. He wanted to fight, to carry her out, kick down every locked door, and never look back. But when he saw the determination in her eyes, the same look Danielle once had, he knew he couldn't stop her. With a curse under his breath, he pulled her close. "Fine, but if we go together. And you don't let go of my hand. Ever." She nodded fiercely. Together. They stepped onto the staircase. The descent was endless. Each step hummed beneath their feet, glowing faintly as if recognizing Aaliyah's presence. The deeper they went, the colder it became, until Jamal could see his breath fogging in front of him. The torches along the walls ignited one by one as they passed, casting flickering shadows. Strange carvings lined the stone, creatures with too many eyes, spirals that seemed to move if stared at too long, words in the same language Aaliyah alone could understand. "What does it say?" Jamal whispered, his voice echoing in the cavern. Aaliyah squinted. It says, "Do not carry what you fear to lose. The guardian takes what you love most." Jamal's blood ran cold. He pulled her even closer, his arms tightening protectively. Around her, Kingston, walking ahead, turned with a smile. "Then we'll give it what it wants." "What are you talking about?" Jamal demanded. But Kingston only faced forward again, his pace quickening. Finally, they reached the bottom. A massive stone door carved with the same unblinking eye from the screens above. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. The voice boomed once. "More. The trial begins. Choose your sacrifice." The torches flared, and suddenly the cavern floor shifted. From the shadows, shapes emerged, phantoms that looked eerily familiar. Jamal's heart lurched as one of them stepped forward, its form hazy but unmistakable. Danielle, her face pale, her eyes sorrowful, reaching for him. "Aaliyah!" Jamal gasped, clutching his daughter tighter. "Don't look!" But Aaliyah's voice trembled. "Daddy, it's Mom." The phantom spoke in Danielle's voice, soft and breaking. "Let her go, Jamal. The key belongs to the child. You cannot protect her forever." "No!" Jamal shouted, rage and grief colliding in his chest. "You're not her. She would never ask me to sacrifice our daughter." The phantom's eyes darkened, its voice twisting into a growl. "Then you will both fall." The cavern shook violently, stones raining from the ceiling. The torches flared red. The eye on the door glowed brighter, staring into their souls. Kingston stepped forward, raising his arms as if offering himself. "Take what you want. Just open the door!" The voice thundered again, shaking the ground beneath their feet. "The greedy shall be devoured!" And suddenly the floor beneath Kingston's men split open. They screamed as they were dragged into the shadows, their cries cut short by the blackness that swallowed them whole. Jamal clutched Aaliyah, shielding her eyes, his own heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. The voice spoke again, softer this time, almost intimate. "The test is not over," and the stone door began to crack open. The cracking sound of stone echoed through the cavern as the massive door split open, ancient dust falling in clouds. A pulse of cold air swept through, strong enough to extinguish half the torches along the wall. Jamal held Aaliyah tight, every muscle in his body taut. His instincts screamed at him to turn back, to run up the glowing staircase and never look back. But the staircase was gone. Behind them was only a wall of seamless stone, as though it had never existed. They had no choice but forward. The last fragments of stone ground against each other and fell away, revealing the chamber beyond. First it was darkness, thick, endless, suffocating. Then faint light bloomed along the walls, not from fire but from veins of glowing crystal, spreading like roots into the stone. The chamber was vast, cathedral-like, with ceilings that soared higher than any building Jamal had ever cleaned. Carvings lined every surface, battles, sacrifices, eyes that watched from every angle. And at the center, on a raised platform, stood a figure. It was not flesh, not entirely stone, but something between. A towering humanoid form carved from obsidian, its body cracked with glowing veins of molten gold. Where its face should have been, there was only that unblinking ancient eye. Aaliyah gasped, her small hand tightening around Jamal's. "Daddy, the guardian." The figure stirred, and the sound was like boulders grinding together. Its eye blazed with light, filling the chamber with a blinding radiance. "The key has entered," the voice thundered, not from its mouth, but from everywhere at once. "The test continues." Kingston stepped forward without hesitation, his arms spread wide in reverence. At last! I have come as my father before me. I bring the key. The guardian's eye turned on him. The air grew heavy, crushing, as if the weight of mountains pressed down. Kingston staggered but did not falter. Your heart burns with hunger, the voice intoned. You seek not truth, but power. Kingston's jaw tightened. I seek both. With power comes freedom. With truth comes immortality. You cannot deny me. The guardian's gaze flared. Brighter. The greedy shall not pass. Kingston's face twisted with desperation. Then take the girl! She is the key! Through her, the chamber must open! Jamal lunged forward, fury exploding inside him. You'll never touch her! He positioned himself between Kingston and Aaliyah, his voice raw and unyielding. The Guardian's eye turned to Jamal. The crushing weight eased slightly. You would protect her with your life, it rumbled. Yes, Jamal said through clenched teeth. With everything I have. And you would sacrifice yourself for her? Jamal didn't hesitate. Without question. The Guardian's gaze lingered on him, then shifted downward to Aaliyah. Her voice trembled, but she stepped forward. I don't want my daddy to die. I'll do it. I'll face your test. Jamal's heart shattered. No, Aaliyah, you don't have to. But the Guardian silenced him with a booming command. The key must choose. Only the pure of heart may pass. Speak, child. What is your sacrifice? Aaliyah's small chest rose and fell as she looked between her father and Kingston, then up at the towering Guardian. Her voice was soft but steady. I don't want money. I don't want power. I don't want anything for me. But she looked up at Jamal, her eyes shining with tears. I want my daddy to never struggle again. I want him to have peace. The Guardian's eye pulsed. A wish for another. A heart without greed. The chamber trembled, the carvings along the walls glowing with golden light. For a moment, Jamal thought the trial was over, that they had passed. But then the Guardian spoke again. Darker, this time. Every gift demands a cost. If the father is to have peace, the child must walk the path alone. Jamal's blood ran cold. No, he roared. You can't take her from me. Aaliyah's lip quivered, but she stood tall. Daddy, maybe this is what Mom meant. Maybe. This is why I can read the words. Maybe it's my path. Tears blurred Jamal's vision. He pulled her into his arms, crushing her against his chest. You're just a kid, baby. You don't have to carry the world. But even as he held her, he felt the pull, an invisible force separating them. The Guardian raised its arms, and the floor split once more, revealing a glowing bridge that led deeper into the chamber. The path was narrow, vanishing into darkness. Say, Key must walk forward, the voice decreed. The protector must remain behind. Jamal tightened his grip until his arms ached. He would not let go. He would never let go. But Aaliyah's voice broke him completely. Daddy, if you don't let me go, we'll both fail. Kingston, still kneeling on the ground, lifted his head and sneered. Then let her go, Carter. Let her walk into destiny, or lose everything. Jamal looked at his daughter, his heart ripping apart. Every fiber of his being screamed to hold on, to never release her. But then he remembered Danielle's last words in that hospital bed. Give her a chance, even if it means you have nothing left. With a sob, Jamal loosened his arms. His hands trembled as he let Aaliyah step onto the glowing bridge. She turned back once, her eyes glistening. I love you, Daddy. And then she walked forward, into the darkness. The Guardian's eye dimmed, and the stone door behind them slammed shut. Jamal fell to his knees, broken, empty, the echo of her footsteps fading into the unknown. Kingston's voice hissed in the silence. sharp as a knife. "She's mine now!" Aaliyah's footsteps echoed across the glowing bridge, each one, sending ripples of light into the abyss below. The air grew colder with every step, yet she walked with quiet resolve behind her. Jamal pressed against the invisible barrier the Guardian had raised, pounding with his fists until they bled. "Aaliyah!" he cried, his voice cracked with desperation. "Come back!" But she didn't turn around. She couldn't. If she looked back, she knew she wouldn't have the strength to go on. Kingston stood nearby, eyes alight with madness. "Watch, Carter. Watch as the child does what you never could. She will open the chamber, and history will remember my name alongside hers." Jamal spun, fury burning through his grief. "You think this is about you?" His fist collided with Kingston's jaw, sending the billionaire sprawling. Years of mopping floors, lifting buckets, and carrying the weight of survival gave Jamal's punch the force of a lifetime's rage. Kingston wiped blood from his lip and smiled through the pain. "It doesn't matter what you do. She belongs to the Guardian now." The bridge ended in a circle of golden stone, suspended in the middle of the void. At its center stood a smaller figure, shaped like a child, carved from the same obsidian and gold as the Guardian. Its eye glowed faintly as it spoke, though its voice was softer, gentler. "You are the key, but the key must prove its worth. Answer this. What is the greatest power? Wealth, knowledge, or love?" Aaliyah's breath trembled in her chest. She thought of Kingston, who craved wealth and knowledge. She thought of her father, who gave up everything just to love her. Her answer was clear. "Love," she said firmly. "Love is the greatest power. It's what makes life worth living. It's what gives us strength." The small figure's eye brightened. "And would you give it up? Would you surrender love itself to protect the world?" Tears welled in Aaliyah's eyes. To live without love? To forget her father's embrace, her mother's memory, the warmth that made her who she was. She shook her head, her voice breaking. "No, because without love, there's nothing left worth protecting." The chamber shook. For a moment, she thought she had failed. But the figure's eye blazed with golden light. The answer is true. The trial is complete. The colossal Guardian stirred once more, its booming voice filling both chambers. The child has spoken truth. Love is the key. Love is the door. Love is the treasure. The abyss began to glow, filling with radiant light. The carvings along the walls shifted, revealing not secrets of gold or power, but scenes of families reunited, hands clasped, hearts bound together. Kingston stumbled to his knees, horror twisting his face. No, this can't be it. Where is the treasure? Where is the immortality?" The Guardian's eye turned on him, its voice a thunderous decree. "The greedy shall be devoured." The ground beneath Kingston split open. He screamed as the shadows rose, clawing at him, dragging him downward. His voice echoed one final time before the darkness swallowed him whole. Silence returned. The barrier, holding Jamal back, dissolved. He staggered forward, falling to his knees as Aaliyah stepped off the bridge. Her small face streaked with tears, but shining with a light he'd never seen before. He gathered her in his arms, clutching her as if he'd never let go again. "I thought I lost you," he whispered, voice raw. "You didn't," she murmured against his chest. "You never will." The Guardian's voice softened, no longer thunder but something closer to a blessing. "The trial is over. The key has passed. Go and live in peace." The glowing chamber began to fade. The bridge dissolved behind them, the crystals dimming. For a terrifying moment, Jamal thought the void would consume them too. But when the light returned, they were standing not in the cavern, but outside, on the steps of Kingston Enterprises, Beneath the rising sun, the skyscraper loomed above. But the windows were dark, the guards gone, the building lifeless. It was as though Kingston's empire had vanished with him. Weeks later, Jamal pushed open the door of their new apartment, clean, bright, filled with sunlight. It wasn't a palace, it wasn't luxury, but it was safe, and it was theirs. He set down his mop bucket, the last one he ever intended to carry, and looked at Aaliyah, who was curled up on the couch with a book. Not a manuscript, not symbols, just a simple storybook. She looked up and smiled. And for the first time in years, Jamal felt hope instead of fear. The Guardian had kept its promise. They had peace. At night, Jamal sometimes dreamt of Danielle. In those dreams, she smiled, her voice echoing softly. You kept your promise. You gave her a chance. And in the quiet of those nights, with Aaliyah sleeping safely in the next room, Jamal finally believed her.